Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for agreeing to meet with my students from ACS, Applied Communication Studies 550. It's a graduate course in ethics in public relations. And it is very important that they have this kind of connection with the real world of public relations. And through my old connection, Gabor from Hungary, I was able to get into connection with PRGN, Public Relations, what is it? The acronym?
Global Network, yeah.
Global Network, right? I had already a couple of interactions with them, and I think there's a host of experience that you can absorb through the discussions with these professionals. So I thank especially Mark Hazelin, who was able to, send the information to the members of PRGN. For my students, they were able to see your website, to put together some, to go through some kind of questionnaire, so we can give you some feedback to, what is their perception of the professional world, and then, connected to ethical issues. And also they generated some questions for this meeting. So very briefly, I don't know, for the people present, if you want to present yourself, let's start with the people from PRGN. Very briefly, what is your name? What is the name of your company? What do you do in general? And we'll go on from there. And then the students again, tell your name and what specialization you are or something like that.
Sure, and I'll start. So I'm Mark Haslin, and this is a group we call the Leadership Roundtable. So the people on this call are going to be folks who lead PR agencies in 50 markets around the world. We're not the owners necessarily, but we're some of the senior leaders of our organization. So I'm in Washington. I'm the Washington representative. Our agency is the Washington representative of the PRGN. We do a lot of work in public affairs, public relations, media relations, national media relations, international media relations. We have clients all over the country, clients around the world. We do a lot of work in crisis communications. We happen to work a lot in aviation and in aerospace. So we've worked on almost all the commercial aviation plane crashes that occurred in the last 15, 20 years. But we also, do a lot of work, and because we're in Washington, with people who want to influence the government, influence policy, influence regulations, and that sort of thing. So associations and member associations that want to advocate for more trains in America, for instance. It could be anything. There's an association for everything. So I'll let somebody else go because we don't have too much time. Maybe Susan is next on my list.
Okay. Hi, my name is Susan Evans. I work with an astounding group of people at Evans Larson. We are gear more towards digital social content and publishing. We have the capacity to publish anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 pieces of content a month, and that goes, which is an enormous amount. So, I don't say that lightly, across multiple channels for social, digital, you name it. It's TikTok, it's Facebook, anything that goes on a website, just a stellar team of content publishers. With that, we have probably 7 different platforms for social and digital listening, as well as traditional media relations, because we do a lot of crisis. And I think everybody in PRGN does crisis because we help people communicate, and that's with multiple audiences. We're located in the Midwest, upper Midwest. We're in Minneapolis. And we've got connections throughout the country. We've got freelancers we work with, as well as the PRGN teams across the country. Work with Fortune 500 companies, large franchise organizations. And we do, our team, we're very democratic. We vote on who we work with. It's not just who I say we want to work with, because if our team isn't interested, they won't do stellar work. So we are strategically sized. we don't try and take on as many clients as possible. Once we hit a certain amount, we shut the doors and we don't take on new business, which is why it's very helpful to have PRGN, because we can recommend other firms around the country. And I will pass it off. Ooh, it's like tag. I'll pass it off. Hi, Shannon. I'll pass it off to Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon Quinn. I'm with LC Williams and Associates in Chicago. We are a mid-sized firm, about 20 people. We've been around 35 years. We're fairly traditional PR focused. We do a lot of media relations still, as well as social media like Susan's team. Our specialties are Chicago specific companies. We have a lot of local companies that we work for, and there's tons of great businesses in Chicago. We also focus on home and housewares brands like First Alert and Trex, and have a number of healthcare associations on our client roster as well. We have other little spots of expertise with people in food and beverage and B2B. So we're really a generalist firm, do a little bit of everything for our clients, and hopefully can contribute on a number of levels to the conversation today. And I guess I joined late, so I don't know who else has gone. Have you gone, Abby?
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you all are coming from. I am at my kitchen table in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. We are going to hit a record 117 degrees today. So wherever you are, appreciate the cool breeze or ocean air or whatever it might be. I'm with HMA Public Relations. We're a full service public relations and marketing communications firm. We are celebrating our 41st year in business this year. That makes us the oldest continuously operating PR firm in the state of Arizona, which is something we're very proud of. We are one of the founding agencies of the Public Relations Global Network. In fact, we will be celebrating that fact here in Scottsdale in May of 2022. When the network kicks off its 30th anniversary, returning to the place of the first meeting when the network was called the Phoenix Network, and he eventually evolved to the PRGN. Like my colleagues here on the call, we are a generalist firm. We do a lot of work across professional services, government, nonprofit, restaurant, hospitality. We also have a niche working with tribal communities, so Native American governments in the region, and focus primarily on media relations, crisis communications, and digital. We are also here in the marketplace a go-to agency for local media looking for spokespeople on particular topics. So at 9:08 Arizona time, I will be joining the local Fox affiliate to discuss the recent cancel culture that's impacting Christy Teigen with her recent apology for some of her behavior online over the last several years. So I'm actually kind of excited to be online with all of you because I'm testing out my view and can I see with my glasses on and hear all of you. So doing my own little media training before I go online here in about an hour. So it's nice to join all of you. And I think one of the best parts of this COVID and our adaptation to technology is our ability to interact with people all over the world through the benefit of our tiny little screens at home. So thank you for having us, and we look forward to our conversation this morning. And John, did you go? John Reynolds?
No, I have not yet. I'm John Reynolds. I'm with Buchanan Public Relations. We're the Philadelphia PR affiliate. We're actually also one of the founding members of PRGN. We kind of have three practices we typically say. We have the traditional media relations, and we do some social and digital work, and then we are a big crisis agency. We do a lot of work. We're the national PR firm for a large insurance company, and all of their insureds come to us when they have needs. So we're kind of playing in all three of those buckets at once. We have 12 employees and 2 dogs. It's a requirement to always mention that we have dogs in the office. And I'm actually the newest one onto these calls. This is my first leadership call. I've recently kind of joined Ann Buchanan, who's our president in a leadership role. So I'm just excited to kind of learn more from the other PRGN affiliates, because I've been working with a lot of them over the years, but haven't really interacted like in this kind of setting before. I'm not sure who.
I think I'm last. Hi. Thanks, John. I'm Brianne Miller. I am with Landis Communications in San Francisco. We, like so many others, are about 30 years old. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary. Generalist firm. We consider ourselves mid. We have specialty areas in healthcare, consumer, and B2B technology. For the last couple of years, what you might find interesting is that we have learned about and represented companies who make everything from the LiDAR technology, which allows autonomous vehicles to see where they're going, to platforms dedicated to the perishable food supply chain. That moves 70% of the perishable food across North America. So we joke that we work with clients who are really important and nobody's ever heard of. And our job is to make sure that people start hearing about them. We, again, like so many others have mentioned, what's nice about PRGN is that I have so many colleagues in different cities who do very similar things to what I do. And one of the things that we rely on is being able to pick up the phone and call our colleagues and bounce around ideas and get some intel and some research when we're doing some new business. New business is my major function here at LCI. I sell our services. In addition, I do represent a couple of our larger clients, the perishable food supply chain that I talked about. And like Abby, I work with some native tribes here in Northern California. So thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you very much for your introductions. I will start myself for the group of my class, ACS 554, Ethics in Public Relations. My name is Sorin Nastasia. I'm an associate professor of public relations in the Department of Applied Communication Studies. At SIUE, you can see the logo in my background. That means Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. We are just 20 miles from St. Louis in Missouri. And I am calling actually from South County in Missouri, where I live. This is a class that is going on during the first part of the summer, only for 5 weeks. So it's more intensive, and it's a graduate class. I have 6 students in it and 3 present here in the discussion. As I mentioned at the beginning of our discussion, the students were challenged to look at your website, PRGN website, and then go through that survey that we selected together. Now they are watching this, or they will watch the recording, the other 3 who are not present. And then maybe they will be matched up with you so they can start a discussion through email. And I ask my students to carbon copy me when they are in connection with you. So not that I'm in control or something, but I want to intervene if there's something that it sounds more academic rather than technical. I am originally from Romania. I worked in public relations and international relations for the government of Romania in the Ministry of Culture, but in international relations at the Ministry of Education, in public relations before coming to do my PhD in the United States in 2003. After my PhD in 2009, I was hired by this university, and I went, like everybody else, through the stages of, becoming a green card holder, then a citizen in 2016, and becoming from associate professor to associate professor. Actually, this year I will apply for next year to become full professor because I'm just ripe for that. So I thank you very much again for your willingness to participate in this discussion, because I think it's very, very important for the students to get their heads and their minds out of the books and articles that I'm sharing with them, and speak the language of the professionals, listen to your ideas, listen to what you see from your side. There's one thing how you teach public relations, and there's another thing how you do public relations. Okay, so let's introduce also the students. The first on my list here is Antonina Weatherly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Antonina. I mostly go by Nina. I'm a first-year graduate student studying organizational communications and public relations. I actually graduated with an undergraduate in business last year in the middle of the pandemic in 2020 from the University of Missouri, which kind of shot me into deciding to do a graduate degree here at SIUE and currently looking into public relations. I am currently a grad student, a grad assistant for the library, and I run their social media channels. So that's kind of giving me some hands-on experience that I've never had before, but I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to John Hines.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
now we
Okay.
can hear.
I just want to say, you can see me, right? Because I've had a problem with this. So my Windows computer was updating, so I had to install this really quickly on an Android tablet. But all this time I've been able to see only 4 people at a time. So right now I'm seeing Mark, Susan, and Mealy. And earlier I was seeing Dr. Nastasia and not Susan. And I don't know how to get the full view of everybody. But I've heard everybody from the beginning. And I had to, install the app and get this on really quickly. Is there any way for me to see everybody at a time? Or are you all having the same problem over there?
Well, there's a selection for view in the right up corner, but I don't know how it is in your interface because I'm on a laptop, but I put it on the view of the speaker. So that's why the speaker pops up, but then you have like a band of the other participants. And after the first 5, they disappear and you have to press on a.
You might be able to swipe as well.
I don't know. Let me try. Yeah. No, I tried that earlier. Well, now I'm just seeing me and you, sir. Okay, now I'm just seeing 4, and that's all I can do. Well,
it's important. It's important that you will see the speaker at the time of their speech.
Well, we'll just have to work it this way. But as long as I get credit for the meeting, I think that's the most important thing, right? For me, I mean, but I've heard you all, and that's just as well as radio broadcasting. And so we'll work with that. So I'm John Hines. There's so much to say. So I have an AA, AS, BA, BS, and MA degrees. My most recent degree, I graduated in May of 2021 with my MA in Applied Communication Studies. And my area of emphasis was interpersonal communication. However, I took 4 public relations electives, all with Dr. Nastasia. So now I'm working on a post-baccalaureate certificate in integrative studies in the subjects of public relations and political science. This builds upon my second bachelor's, which is a BS in political science. And it also builds upon my electives in public relations. And I'm working at a Walmart store, have been there a little over a year. My parents both passed away. I was living at home with them. Right now, I'm trying to find a new place to live. I've been told I have to move out of their old house. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I love my job. I'm on my feet 9.5 hours at a time when I go to work. I think that's very healthy. So, I may just stay with Walmart. It's a major employer, but I like the job I'm doing. It doesn't pay very much, but I don't know. Maybe I can work at home. If I could work at home, then I could continue to work at Walmart part-time. So maybe I could do public relations that way. I really don't know what I want to do with my future, but thank goodness I have my job. So, but I love school. I couldn't leave school after I graduated. So I just thought, well, did I say I'm 56 and a half? So it was my life. I've been a perpetual student, basically most of my adult life. And of course, we go to school before we're adults. So I just couldn't leave school, and we'll see what happens, but I'm all right. And of course, there's always much more for everybody to say, but I didn't want to take up too much time. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll move to Millie Pinsky.
Hi, all. My name is Millie, and I just recently graduated with my applied communications degree, my bachelor's. I too, like John, am a perpetual student, but for a very different reason. I have 4 crazy, wonderful, beautiful children between the ages of 10 and 14, and they've kind of slowed me down. So I don't have nearly as many degrees, but I have all kinds of life experience that has taught me a lot. I've interned and done AmeriCorps with nonprofit, and that's kind of what guided me to public relations as a whole. I would very much like to work in the nonprofit sector of public relations, but I also am highly interested in entertainment and international as well. But being that mom of 4 with fairly young children, I'm pretty stuck, luckily, in St. Louis, where there's plenty of opportunity. But I am a first-year grad student at SIU and will be working with the ACS Speech Center with my graduate assistantship for the next 2 years. So hopefully we'll meet plenty of people that can help guide me into the right direction.
Great.
Thank you, Millie. And I think we covered everybody present. So let's move to the questions. I have here, and I will read them, though I know who asked the questions. Veronica Cribbs is not present, so I'll read the questions for her. Have you ever worked with a client or organization that pushed you to make an unethical choice for their brand, even after advising them not to? And be fully honest.
I'll go ahead and start the conversation. And the answer is no, but in part because we wouldn't have gotten that far, I think, in the conversation. Most of the time, at least I believe that we rely not only on our knowledge and expertise because we know what we're doing, but we rely on our gut instincts quite a bit when we are engaging with clients. And the red flags appear very quickly. And you know, it is on us to be ethical and transparent and open and honest. And that means that has to be part of the conversation with our clients. And I think it comes mostly in, you know, for us, it appears most of the time in a crisis communication situation where something is happening and we're being asked to manage it. And one of the first things we tell our clients is we need to feel proud to stand next to you in the good times and the bad. And if we can't do that for whatever reason, then we aren't a good fit. And so when we feel like we might be asked to do something that doesn't align with our with our principles, with our ethics, then we walk away. An example is really, we were asked to work on a zoning case. A real estate transaction was taking place, and the business was having difficulty with the neighborhood. It happened to be a gentleman's club. So we are an office of women, and decided that although that business had every right to be a business and operate and engage, we just didn't feel it was aligned with our, with our business practices, with who we were. It wasn't unethical necessarily, but it didn't align with who we were. So we politely declined and recommend that they seek someone else to assist them. And I hope that clients respect, at least the clients we want to work with, respect that open and honest discussion.
I wanted to share with you, if I may, a well-known example from my country of origin, from Romania. Actually, about 10, 15 years ago, there was a consortium of a Canadian and an Indian company who found out that in the middle of Romania, in the Carpathian Mountains, especially on the Transylvanian side, there were mines, from gold mines from the time of the Roman conquest. You know, that territory was occupied by the Roman army and administration for almost 400 years in ancient times, and they were, extracting gold from that time. And they estimated technically by scanning 7 mountains that they could take out the equivalent of $3 trillion in gold from those mountains. And they were proposing to the local communities to buy them out, to take them out, even they're dead, from their graves, and move them somewhere else safe, and then dissolve those mountains with cyanide and destroy everything to take the ore out. And of course, they tried to pay the government, they tried to pay administrators, they tried to bribe everybody. And almost when they were winning about 10 years ago, I know about these things because I interviewed for my thesis in 2009, people from PR companies in Bucharest. And these companies actually tried to co-opt public relations companies from all over Bucharest. Everybody was asked by these companies if they wanted to, undertake their project, to make a positive image for themselves that actually this is doable, that actually this is ethical, that actually the local people will find work and they will find compensation for their suffering, for their moving their families, their dead from the area, and so on and so forth. And then a group of actors and activists made a campaign against this, in which they were, showing, look, take my gold. There were women who were pretending to take their gold from their noses, tongues, ears, and the blood will come out to sensitize everybody, the public opinion against this kind of campaign. So they stopped the project by having activists taking over and, showing the reality of what would happen, with human suffering and so on and so forth. And they never materialized that kind of project. So the mountains are still there. So should we move to the next question?
Sure.
Okay.
There's a lot, so.
Yes. Have you ever been in a situation where you have had to promote an idea or campaign went against your morals or what you consider ethical?
I'll go ahead and go next. And this was early in my career. One of the first projects I was on with an agency I worked with. You guys are familiar with little packets of sugar that come on the table, right? So if you try the pink one, it tastes kind of a lot like chemicals. And if you taste the one that's kind of blue, it tastes a little less chemically. And if you taste the yellow one, it tastes a little less chemically. And that's because each one's a little newer. It's a little better at doing the thing, at making something taste like sugar. And that's sort of the goal of the ultimate goal is to find an all natural sweetener that's not sugar, that has no calories. So anyway, one of these companies just wanted to let everybody know how the process that the other company's product was made with, which include using phosgene gas, which was this, this gas that was dropped on the Kurds in 1988, by Saddam Hussein. They weren't claiming there was any health problems with this other product, but they just wanted to let everybody know that this is how the product was made, which I felt was a little shady, but they wanted us to promote that. And so, it didn't get very far. You want to know why? Because mostly journalists can smell bullshit. And nobody really bought on that topic. So it didn't really last very long, but it was a difficult one because it wasn't super unethical. We weren't lying. We were telling the truth about how the product was made, but it was a shade that was really made it not what you were looking for. Not what I felt very comfortable with, to be honest.
Okay, anybody else on this question?
It's not what we did or didn't do. It's, there have been a couple of times, this was long ago, where we had a couple of employees who are still with us say they weren't comfortable working on a particular project. And with that, we respect what the employee wants to do. So we're very careful with that. And there are some people, because we have a wildly diverse group, who are like, hey, I'm all for that. It's like, that's why we're fairly democratic and ask people, what are you interested in working on? Recognizing that people have different interests. So there's nothing crazy against morals, but more interests. And sometimes those interests get into a gray area of what people do and don't believe religiously or something like that. But your religion is yours and you own it and it gets you through life. So those are the kind of things where we will talk with employees and say, what do you really want to do? Or if they discover something about a client, we have conversations about freedoms and beliefs, and let's work through and see where we can go. So that's how we handle it if it comes up. If there's something egregious, we're like Abby, we've never had anything because we do we research a lot before we start working with a client. So we don't just say, hey, thank God, here's a paycheck. There's a lot that goes into partnerships in what we do and what everybody in PRGN does. They're very careful. It's not, this is for payroll. This is for good work and being a good human being. So.
Yeah, I think ultimately, buyers, consumers will like a company maybe for a period of time just because they throw the glitter and the pomp. But in time, they will get wise. They will see if something is of good quality or the services are exactly what you promised that they will be. And you will lose in the end the consumers if they discover that, the packet of sugar is chemical.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, here in the States is the Public Relations Society of America, and they have a code of ethics. And PRGN, as an international network, adopted those ethical practices as our standards. And it is, it really goes back to what, we were taught as kids, be nice to people, do unto others as you'd like done unto yourself, right? All those kinds of things. But it is a codified way of how we should be conducting ourselves. And when we find ourselves in a situation that might compromise our ethics, here's an association that has outlined for us how we can navigate through that. And we have this network here of 50 plus agencies around the world that probably have dealt with something similar. So we have an opportunity to discuss and interact and make a decision if we're faced with something like that. And businesses deserve to have communications counsel in the same way that they deserve to have legal counsel in the event that they are faced with something. So it's not that they have to be on the right side of a discussion for us to work with them. Sometimes they are on the wrong side of the situation. But if they are conducting their business ethically and are open to admitting where they are, where there are errors and what they want to do operationally to change that, and they recognize that as counselors, we can assist them in navigating those conversations. I have no problem with being with someone that's on the other side of what might be the popular conversation, if I still feel like they're doing everything they can to get to the other side. And so, and when I am challenged by that, I rely back on those ethical standards, and it helps guide those conversations and gives me, if I needed it, a little extra leverage when I have to explain why I will not do something, is because it goes against this code of ethics that I have committed to since I was in college and was a student member of that association. So for, almost 40 years, 35 years, I have been, following this practical guide. And so it makes it much simpler to delineate when that's happening. So
Abby brings up a good point that we had an example of that. Law firm found out that one of their leaders had a neo-Nazi amongst them, found out, and they said they fired him, and they called us and said, we've got a problem because the paper just ratted us out. They were doing everything right, but wanted to have help navigating through what was going on. And so it was an explosive issue that we asked, because I asked right out, I said, what side are you falling on this? Because we will not help you if you fall on the wrong side. And they said, here's what we've done and here's where we're going. And so not unlike lawyers, you say, where are you on this? And then that's where we make a decision as a company with our employees as a firm. The other thing is too, one thing that, and I don't know if this came up in the questions, I read through the questions, we have let clients go for lying to us. There are a lot of clients, not a lot, we've done it 3 times over the course of 30 odd years. And they've had to do with distribution issues where people have said, oh yeah, it's coming in from China and it will have distribution throughout the country. So you can tell that to the Wall Street Journal. Well, it turns out it was a lie, and it was stuck in China, and it was nowhere near. So then our reputation comes into play, as well as the clients. And so there are situations ethically where you have to say, you know what, I don't trust you anymore. And so we have let 3 clients go over the year. And it's a painful thing because you do like the people, and there's only one person in it, whoever does it. And so it's not like anybody plans to do these things, but for people to keep their jobs and the pressure that they're under, you do uncover some interesting human tendencies, I would say. So.
And just building on what Susan said, that, you know, as in life, you find out what people are made of when there's a crisis, right? I mean, when something goes wrong, I mean, I've had clients who have had products that have failed and have had to be recalled, and how you advise them to communicate is our job. But it's also their job to be able to show to their customers, this is how we act when something goes wrong, and this is how we want to make it right. And that's very telling. And I think probably everybody on this call has had one of those instances where they're like, you know, have to tell the client, listen, you're either not doing enough, or you're not leading with empathy, or, you know, let's talk about how we can make this more right for your customers. But you know, those times of crises are the ones where you really see what companies are made of. I mentioned that I'm here in San Francisco. We work with Silicon Valley companies all the time. And as technology evolves and products evolve, so do the claims of what those products can do. And we have had many instances in the past where a client will come to us and say, we're going to do this. We're going to send this product out. It's going to do A, B, and C. And, you know, what we like to take the product and sort of bang on it and use it ourselves for a little while, because sometimes the hyperbole gets ahead of what the product is really able to do. So there's that also. It's not that anybody is necessarily trying to do something that is on the wrong side of the ethical equation, but what they have promised and what others have promised them in the creation of a product or service doesn't actually come to fruition. And it is our job as strategic communications counselors to say, better hold up until this can actually do what you say it's going to do. Or, you know, let's not claim that it does this, because it doesn't. And according to your engineers, that's not going to happen for another 6 months. So we can say we're hoping in the future that this product will do A, B, and C. So it's not only where are you standing on an ethical side, it's what are you claiming about your product, and is it actually real? That's something else that you have to consider.
And you also have to consider that as the communicator, because you're testing it, you may be telling that particular part of the company something that they didn't know. That's happened a lot on the communication side for marketing, because you're working so far out in timelines that when you discover something, you're like, did you guys know this? You're like, oh my God. You know, and so that's also exciting too, where you go, okay, don't shoot the messenger, but I need you to know this. And so that's too, that is an ethical discussion where people have come into my office saying, do we tell them this? I say, absolutely you do. But it's a surprise if you're new on a team and you discover something. I always say, raise your hand and say it, because a lot of times people just, there's a lot of trust that the work is correct from a client point of view, but nobody verifies it. And so sometimes I've had members of my team find things out, like this link doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, this, you know, when we're testing product or something, it's like, I can't make this. And it's like, oh my God, they're the first person in a line of 600 to actually go to the nth degree that a customer will. So never be afraid to raise your hand and say, hey, wait a minute, I've got a glitch, because those are ethical decisions you have to make working for a communications team as well.
This is all very interesting. I was looking at the package of questions from John Hines, and because it seems to me that we addressed what he asked in the first question, what are some of the negative consequences that an organization might suffer after implementing unethical public relations tactics, I would move to the second question from him. Generally, what are some of the negative consequences that the public might suffer after an organization implements unethical public relations tactics?
Yeah. Huh.
There's so many things.
This one, we could talk about this one for 4 days,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, pretty much anything.
Yeah, trying to distill
The
that.
age of misinformation and disinformation is like, you know, I don't know if it's, I hope it's cresting right now, but you know, it's like it's shot up a lot lately. And there's just all kinds of consequences. I think the story yesterday that was, that impressed me most was just I hope I'm not overstepping politics here, but the vaccination rates in certain states are higher and lower. And it appears to me it's based on politics and partisan politics. Like people are getting vaccinated because they believe certain things and not vaccinated because they believe other things. And that's like, you know, pretty direct consequence, I think, of information and misinformation and the consumption of information.
Mhm.
I was to say, I think the other thing is when most of us started out in our careers, the news media was a limited entity, right? We had our major networks, we had our major daily news, the radio talk shows, and that, you know, magazines, that was it. Today's news media, and I'm saying that very generally, is anyone with a laptop and any knowledge of WordPress can become a journalist, lowercase j, journalist. And so to Mark's point about misinformation, malinformation, I think as consumers of news, we have to be smarter about how we consume news in the first place. We have to know that the sources are ethical. We have to do our own research. We can't go on a single source story and say, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's an opinion. That is not a news story. And so I think where the public suffers is in is really in not understanding what is considered news and what is advertising, what is marketing, what is opinion, all of which is perfectly fine to be out into the world, but news is objective, or should be. And I'll give you another resource called Voices for Everyone, voices with the number 4 everyone.com, which is a site that's intended to discuss this exact thing, what the impact of myth and mal and disinformation on society. And as professional communicators, what do we need to do to stop it from happening? And I think in part as professional communicators, it's our responsibility to shut down those things. There was an article in the Washington Post last week or so about I say alleged public relations agency that was basically creating news and calling it news. And the Public Relations Society of America wrote a very direct response that is not public relations. And so I think, again, consumers need to be educated and need to take responsibility for how they consume news. And as professional communicators, we also have a responsibility to make sure that we are only interacting with those things that are legit and objective. And when it is not, that it is clearly defined as opinion or paid or sponsored or any other way of getting, you know, the information out.
I wanted to add here, like I did in my presentation a few weeks ago in front of you at PRGN, you know, the results of my research from my sabbatical about the activism taking root nowadays with many organizations. And, you know, usually there are nonprofit organizations that are activist in nature, but because of their initiatives, many public relations companies are adapting to this situation. And businesses are adapting to this situation. Nike, Uber, many other companies are preferring to lose business rather than be unethical or not be offering their products and services in an equal measure to anybody in the society. Yes, Uber had a message last year, you know, you can drop us if you are against the LGBT or something like that. So they prefer to lose business rather than listen to the newer ideas in the society. Okay, I think we can move on to one more question. Let's see, here I have a question from Nina. What are the initial steps that a public relations consultant might take after a company they are working for makes an unethical decision and faces public backlash?
Crisis 101 is to end the problem. Stop the problem first, and then you'll never get over the PR problem without stopping the actual problem.
Yeah, about that, many companies do not even understand or comprehend from where to start when to address crisis situation. The advice for public relations professionals is that a representative of the company has to be there in the first 24 hours and apologize profusely and to talk about the measures of righting the wrong. But many people are inclined to first combat the situation and say, no, we were not doing anything wrong. Or not to react in the first 24 hours because they need to find their CEO who is on the beach and ask for permission, as it happened many times, with oil spills and so on and so forth. But what do you see in the professional world? Are people really adamant to having a plan for crisis situation, or?
I think more so now, because everyone's phone has a camera. And so I can create I can show the world how wrong something is or a mistake somewhere. Anything from, we work with builders and developers, and some of them do malls and restaurants. And we had a crisis because some customer with a phone was showing a mouse running around a restaurant. So that's viral local. And then you can get into the oil spills or the issues that are international because you've got a camera phone. So I think people understand that they need a crisis. What we find slows clients down is no one can know everything about what's going on in a company. And so to find out the truth of what actually happened takes longer than 5 minutes. And so you have to have interim statements and interim we're aware, we're trying to find out. And that's why you see these stopgap statements, because everyone's trying to scramble to figure out what just happened and who did it, where did it, was it on camera, where's the truth, what's happening, who says what. And that takes, because we always say the greatest crisis plan in the world will not go according to plan because of people, because there are all these different points of view. So no matter how well you practice it, and it goes like clockwork, something in real life is going to come in and throw a left field. You're ready for it, but you didn't. Everybody in PRGN's like, oh yeah, that happened to me once. And you've got these war stories of the greatest plan in the world went sideways. But because everyone on this call is so good, you go, here's how we're going to say it, here's how we're going to handle it, because you have an idea of what people do need to hear, and you measure that with what is ethical, what is correct, and what represents my client. And then you have to come up with a statement.
Raise your hand if you had worldwide pandemic in any of your crisis plans, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Right. And hopefully we will never again have to rely on what we learned over the last year and handful of months. But the most companies, when it becomes a PR problem, is because it was an operational problem to start with, right? Something broke down internally that resulted in a PR crisis. Wherever it is, it wasn't a PR thing that caused this to go wrong. It was something else. And so, and we are only as smart in how much information we know, and we will guide you, and we will change what we said in hour 1 on hour 5 and in 3 days. I mean, it has to, and being open and honest about that. Yes, what we told you yesterday was true yesterday, and with new information and new processes, here's what's happening now. we are all prone to the conversation with our clients that we need access to the C-suite. We can't operate without full access to the decision makers and the leaders of these organizations. And that's not just in a crisis situation. That's in everyday stuff. If we can't talk to the CEO or the head of whatever division we're working with, we are operating in a vacuum and will not be successful. And so that is one of those red flags that comes up. If we are not able to speak to those individuals, it's not going to be a good fit, and we will not be able to advise on even on the good stuff, right? Even on good product launch, or, you just donated $1 million to, a nonprofit. Why did you pick that nonprofit? Where did the $1 million come from? Are you going to be able to do that again next year? I mean, that's a great story, but that only comes from leadership. And so having us at the table, having us part of the conversations, as Brian and Susan said, a lot of times we're going to find the stuff that's wrong and ask those tough questions. We've got only your best interest at heart when we ask them. So let us ask you the hard stuff. Let us find, the broken parts or the things that won't work. And we aren't perfect. We're not going to get it right every single time, but we sure as heck are going to be a lot better for you when we have access. And so, the inviting us to the table, having us be part of those conversations goes a long way in preventing, at least our involvement in preventing some of these more maybe unethical or challenging business decisions.
And just building on what Abby said, you're much better off having these questions be asked by us as your counselors and strategic communicators than the 60 Minutes crew showing up, right? So clients who appreciate the fact that they can have sort of an outside perspective from somebody who is a trusted advisor will do better in a crisis than people who are like, no, we're not going to sort of, let you in on every single thing that's going on here, because that will just catch them, short every single time.
This is very interesting for me and exciting, and I would listen to you forever. It's just that I see one of my undergraduate students from the next class already got into this discussion, hoping to be on time. And Mark graciously accepted to be part of the second discussion, so I will need a little bit of time to save this discussion so I can reopen Zoom for the next hour. Thank you very, very much for your time. I will need to interrupt this, and hopefully we will pair you up with the students, and they can continue personally the discussion with you. I think this is precious for all of us.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.